The fantasy news must flow. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host Daniel Green, and today, you know I want to kick it off with some cover reveals. Some crazy, beautiful ones that came to us this week that I have just been salivating over since I actually first saw them covered by Patrick Leo, who is also a phenomenal sci-fi fantasy YouTube content creator. Go ahead and check out his channel if you want more fantasy news-ish type content. The first one is going to be wow. Written by Taryn Montaru, we had the UK cover for Dragon Rider, book 1 in the Soulbound saga revealed, with art by Holly McDonald. And Tehran, I hope you cried when you saw that, not in like an aggressive bad way, but just from the beauty of this minimal style art. I like dragon art, if you can't tell. And this one makes me want to get like a full back piece of this face. It's got like that more minimal white appeal, but with like absurd amounts of detail. Just spectacular. Holly McDonald, whoa. So if you are interested in some dragon riding-esque books, I'm going to safely assume that's a focal point for the narrative here. I'll of course include the link down below. And I guess big old dragons is gonna be the theme today for cover reveals, because we also had the cover drop for The Last Phi Hunter by Celine Goldenberg, set to be released May of 2024, with cover art by Ilya Nazarov. That's crazy cool name. To be released April of 2024 by Angry Robot Books. This had a blurb that started reading, X, the youngest, most excitable member of the Phi Hunters Order, travels the haunted countryside, stalking and slaying the ghosts and demons of Soram Kingdom. Well, he takes great pride in his mystical trade, collecting dwindling bounties and peddling butchered spirit organs lacks the glory he craves. X believes the only way to win the respect of his guild is to hunt down a legendary demon, one that eluded even his masters and hasn't been seen for decades. Oh, it's a little bit spoopy sounding. I wish it was coming out in October. I do have a huge soft spot for fantasy involving ghosts and demons though, so yeah, this one's for sure on my TBR radar. And we also got a Patrick Rothfuss update. No, it's not involving the release date of his third books, just cutting that off before the comments come into play. And no, it's not an update for the Promise chapter he raised money for charity for, said was already done, was just waiting on a voice cast, and now all the months later is still not here, and it's not addressing any of the other issues going on. Instead, we have had a special edition for his first 2 books drop that will not be shipping to the US or Canada. I'm noting that this time. And this is coming from Gollancz. In all fairness, very pretty books. I just wonder if Gollancz will even be around anymore by the time the third book and the promised chapter that money was taken for and was said to already be done will be released. We don't know. This is expected to ship around November 9th, limited to only 1,000 copies of each. Wow, they are selling them individually though. That's interesting. There's 1,000 copies, but if you just like the first book, you can just get the first book, and then that means someone's stuck with just the second book. Interesting. But in terms of some bigger names for science fiction, we also had Folio Society, yes, announcing their Dune Messiah special edition. And if you want a company that tends to deliver for the title special edition, Folio Society absolutely falls into that fold. I'm excited for this because, of course, not only is the Dune Folio Society of the first book, not Dune Messiah, just one of the most beautiful renditions of that world ever realized, and yes, I'm even comparing it to the movie, but this one also has a map prominently displayed. And I love maps! This did inevitably make me wonder for the first time, was Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie successful enough to have a similar level of sway over people's interpretation of the Dune book as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings had for Tolkien's story? I don't believe so, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of his visual language for that story come into play quite heavily, though I think it'll be a bit harder to distinguish because Denis Villeneuve really realized it so so accurately, I guess it would mostly just be in like character design choices, because wow, yeah, now the more I think about it, like, could you even tell? Because Denis Villeneuve just made Dune. But we're going to go from that huge name to one that I feel is criminally underrated, and that would be Rob J. Hayes, who just announced his Kickstarter for 3 epic fantasy novels in one. The Godeater Saga Phase 1 Kickstarter is officially here. The first 3 books in a trilogy of trilogies set in a new fantasy world where humans gain magic and immortality by devouring angels. Rob, how did you learn about my diet? It's funny, before Sanderson's monolithic Kickstarter that is still the top of all time, yes, authors used Kickstarters for their special editions and things like that. That wasn't entirely new. But since then, it seems like it's become far more common. And I really like it because it cuts out a lot of middlemen from the trad space that tend to jack up prices. And it's my belief that this is the avenue best bang for your buck return. Obviously, keep in mind, I am biased. I work with Wraithmark Creative. We put together special editions and use Kickstarter. But I'm telling you from personal experience, someone who has witnessed other spaces and is operating in this one, it feels the most comfortable for me as a consumer and a creator. So if you're an author who's considering developing that, I endorse it as long as you have the proper partners and resources to follow through. And in a fun quickie announcement, yes, we'll be doing a live stream on Thursday over on Brandon Sanderson's channel with the man himself, Matt Hatch, and I believe a couple others, doing a live reaction to the final episode of Season 2 of The Wheel of Time. So if you'd like to go ahead and be alerted when that goes live on Thursday evening, not entirely sure in the exact time yet, go subscribe to Brandon Sanderson's channel, which I'm sure I need to tell very few of you to do. But before we get into the wider entertainment news, a quick word from today's sponsor. Private Internet Access VPN. Because do you like just sending out all of your personal information via postcard to the rest of the world? I'm talking medical records, financial documents, etc. I didn't think so. Browsing the internet without using an encrypted network is kind of like that. And that is where today's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN, comes into play. They hide your IP address and safeguard your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. And with service in over 84 countries, it allows you to access content from other parts of the world that might usually be blocked in your country. You all know what I'm talking about when it comes to streaming services. Wink. But what you might not know is it's also a way for you to get better deals on certain services like flights that can be location-based. And this is possibly the best deal any of my sponsors have ever offered, because if you click the link in the description down below, you can get 83% off your service, making it just a little over $2 a month to protect an unlimited number of devices and then get 4 months completely free. All of that with a 30-day money-back guarantee. God damn! So be sure to take advantage of Private Internet Access VPN offer today with the link down in the description. Next up, we have Berserk news that is not from the official rights holders, but is instead fan-made. A fan-made Berserk anime has just dropped its first teaser trailer by Studio Eclipse. In addition to the original announcement, Studio Eclipse also released the following details. No, we won't adapt the Golden Age arc. The project is focused on the Black Swordsman arc. There won't be any censoring or toned-down scenes. 3D CGI will not be used for any characters. It will be voiced in English and Japanese, plus an original score. So I just spent the better part of an hour and a half looking into Studio Eclipse to figure out what exactly the expectations should be for this fan adaptation. And what I have found is multiple rabbit holes, so bear with me here for a moment. I do not have anything negative to say about Studio Eclipse, aside from the fact that they are the studio that is currently working on Attack on Titan Requiem's animated adaptation, which that was one of the rabbit holes. Had no idea about that whole debacle where, tangent, apparently some fans were upset with the ending of Attack on Titan, so they wrote their own. A lot of people consider it to be even worse. Shocker, who could have seen that coming? Although I'm not giving my own judgment because I haven't seen it. And this studio is currently working on that. And they have announced this Berserk project
Well, not having fully delivered on the Attack on Titan one yet, which, for me personally, not making any accusations, is a bit of a red flag. It's like, where's the first thing you were supposed to be doing? But they have been consistently delivering teasers and updates for these things for quite some time. So who am I to know what their workload can or cannot be? And the second thing is, well, yes, they are showing love and respect to Berserk in their posts and saying they're trying keeping it to the original source material as much as possible. We don't know what their capabilities are because they haven't finished that first project yet, and what deliverables this actually will result in, because it could be a 2 to 3 minute fun Berserk anime thing, which there are a buttload of already on YouTube. But they are also saying it's a short anime, but it's also going to be, you know, true to the Black Swordsman arc. So in range, this could be anything from 3 minutes to several episodes, because they've also put up like teaser for episode 1 of the Attack on Titan project. So I am so not sure on what this even is now.
Speaking of a specific line, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein adaptation is rapidly approaching a perfection line for its casting, because not only have we had it announced that Andrew Garfield, Mia Goth, and Oscar Isaac will be starring in his Frankenstein, but now Christoph fucking Waltz has been added to this cast. God damn! With Guillermo del Toro's success with Pinocchio and his love for this type of horror, I can't wait to see what Guillermo del Toro can do for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Not only is it one of the best horror books of all time in my opinion, it's one of the best sci-fi books of all time in my opinion, and Guillermo del Toro's the guy to do it. You telling me he's got Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, and Mia Goth? God damn! It must be so nice to have that level of success as a director, where you can just be like, oh, I'm doing this project. How many Oscar winners want to be involved? Of course they do. Now, in the last episode of Fantasy News, I brought you some haha time when it came to a UFO documentary that had stolen Sanderson's steel language in some of the stock footage that it used. For today's haha funny time, I bring you something that's a little more like haha. It's not like overtly haha, it's more just like that's the day and age we're living in, isn't it? Because apparently the studio behind the disastrous Gollum game, no, I don't feel like I'm being too mean saying that, it's currently sitting at one of the worst rated games of the year, used ChatGPT to write its statement apologizing for how bad the game was. This was a claim by a developer involved in the team, and some of the evidence backing it up is that it was misspelled in the apology. 2023 entertainment. It's something different. For anyone feeling bad for this studio and just thinking like, it's an apology letter, who cares? This same studio has been accused of, you know, crunch and all kinds of other bad practices that were a part of this. In fact, I actually wish I had originally recorded this to focus more on the additional allegations that have come out about how just horribly the development of this game was handled. So, of course, links to read all about it in the description down below. But if that didn't scratch your haha itch, I recommend you go ahead and check out yesterday's video where I did another tipsy first and last, going through Fourth Wing. That's right, first time we did A Court of Thorns and Roses, this time we are doing the BookTube Booktop Sensation while I finish off a whole bottle, as though my ribs themselves have become weapons. The design is ingenious. That's a sippy sip. I barely recognize myself. Don't you scoff at me. How doth you scoff at me? I barely recognize. The problem is, the more sippy sips that happen, the more sippy sips that will occur. What's that, Mr. Raven? I should cover the Poe news. I absolutely will, because we have had the trailer drop for Mike Flanagan's Fall of the House of Usher. No, not you. As far as I know, your house is fine. This is being brought to you by probably my favorite working horror guy. Not even just director, just just person of the horror inclination, Mike Flanagan. And while we know with the writer's strike ending, he is going full force with his Dark Tower, but before we get to see his next Kingian endeavor, we're gonna see Mike get a bit poed up. I think my one complaint is, while I like the overall look of the aesthetic being achieved here, and I don't entirely mind updating it to modern times, it's just one of my least favorite kinds of trailers, where there's a bunch of shots that are clearly just made for trailers with some narration and not much else. I'm still excited for it, still a big Mike Flanagan fan. Netflix just tends to do a lot of these, and this is headed towards Netflix, and it's not my favorite style of trailer. And this will be coming to Netflix on October 12th. What's this? It looks like I've been handed a last-minute fantasy news update, and there is a self-published sci-fi fantasy book that needs some attention. Without any further ado, take it away, past me, which breaks away the narrative I put together for this transition. The Blood of Crows by Alex C. Pierce. An SPFBO8 semi-finalist pitched as dark and suspenseful fantasy heist novel. With cover art by Thea Madron. Ren, a state-trained thief working in a world where everyone has magical ability except for him, doesn't kill people. Tensions are already high in the walled realm of Linmar, and when the nobility start dying with no trace of magic that isn't from the victims, Ren immediately becomes the prime and only suspect, hunted by magic-eating inquisitors and the captain of the royal guard. His life becomes one of flight and fear through a realm on the brink of civil war. All Ren wants to do is stop a serial killer, clear his name, find his mentor, and protect the people he cares about. To do that, he'll have to pull one more high-stakes heist and steal the proof he needs from the very people who want to catch him. But in the last story we're going to be covering here today, there has been a Kickstarter, yes, we're ending it here as well, launched for Indie Author, a documentary for all who dare to dream. Full disclosure, I've been asked to be a part of this if it does get funded, and it involves names like Bryce O'Connor, my publisher, the head of Wraithmark, and Michael J. Sullivan, Robin Sullivan, Will Wicht, ML Wang, Phil Tucker, Travis Baldry, as well as potentially many more. So if you would like to see a documentary that kind of goes into the evolution of the indie scene in recent years, as well as far more, go ahead and check that out as well. But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and thank you again to Private Internet Access for sponsoring today's video. Now, go off and watch me do some fourth winging. This video, unfortunately, was just absolutely crushed in the algorithm, I think due to an unsuccessful thumbnail, as well as just releasing it at a time where there was a lot going on. So if you're interested in that series, I'd really appreciate it, because it is our worst performer in a while by a lot. And have a good one, y'all. Peace.